What's up, everybody? Another week, another time. John is late for the show. I get up early for this. It's almost 10 o'clock where he is, but he has a really hard time getting here on time now. But what's up, Greg? What's up, Bill? Appreciate you guys always being in the chat to start off the show. But I really think we're just going to talk about free agency, kind of the landscape that's going to happen. With the nice thing with all of these different signings and trades that we've seen is we could see polar opposite sides on what people are thinking as far as there he is. If I knew it could be that quick, I would have just stopped, but you're on mute. You're just all hot and bothered today.
What are we talking about?
There you go. Wait, talk real quick.
Hold up. Test.
Yeah, okay, you're good now. You're good. It takes a second for you to fully come online. All right. Anyways, I will let John do his thing. But what I was just saying was, with all of the good free agency signings, it turned into now everyone has a take on these different things. You could like Joe Mixon. You could hate Joe Mixon. You could like where Fields. We saw a lot of people being like, I love Fields going to the Steelers. Now he's going to have a good job to take over middle of the season. You have others that are saying Fields is crap. You don't want to even have him on your teams. I think that's going to happen for a lot of these free agent signings. So I think it's actually going to really help promote trades and discussions in dynasty leagues. It's what we need right now, because I have a lot of leagues that are dead. I keep trying to make moves and you don't even get anything back. And it's almost always my fantasy league teams. It's always MFL teams. It's how it goes. John?
Listen, I had my laptop ready to go. Everything was checking out. 9:28. I get my coffee. I come
Good thing
upstairs.
You're not early. That's good.
Listen, I come upstairs, and before I do, Finley restarts my computer. So it's a work laptop, and it absolutely fucking sucks. Can I say that this early? Can I say it?
You seem to. Yes.
All right. So you're talking about Fields. You're
just everything, man.
No, I agree. And it's fun to see. If you look in the tiers, I have the Dynasty Daddy ADP.
Mm-hmm.
I have the fantasy calc values. Now, what's fun to see is the fantasy calc values are going to adjust a little bit quicker than the ADP, because the ADP, you're in a startup. It takes 3+ weeks for that startup to end.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're starting a brand new one now, we're not really going to see the adjustment till 1 or 2 weeks into April. And at that point, you're going to start to see even more of a shift. So the fantasy calc values, I think that's going to be, you see those adjustments a little bit quicker. Like you're going to see that with the running backs, especially. Like you're going to see the Joe Mixon. I know you were talking about him. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. We're going to see that switch, and then that's going to be impacting the ADP. So I think from a market value shift perspective, it's going to be, if you're in a startup and you're relying on the ADP, there might be values to be had when you compare it to existing leagues, just because it's not updating, right away.
Oh, especially, because right now you either have rookie picks added into the startups, or you'll have the rookies themselves added in the startups, just depending on how you do it. And those guys always go higher than the vets anyways. So you'll see that 204 go off the board before Joe Mixon does. But maybe that's what it's going to take to get Joe Mixon in a normal league that's been running for 5 years now. So yeah, definitely, in my opinion, I think that's what you're going to see if you do startups right now. And startups are so much fun right now. I'm finishing one up. I'm not going to be in another one till probably May at this point, just because of vacations and then the draft and all that other stuff. But they're fun. You could go with whatever kind of build you want, because there's so many different ways you could build right now. You could go completely rookie. And I think going completely rookies in this draft class is a really good idea. because no matter what, all these guys are going to get so much hype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially, I mean, how many times can we talk about the top 7, right? Like, and that's why I was talking about this with the FF Dynasty guys last week. And you're in startups and like you feel confident and comfortable taking these guys early in startups. And I know we've talked about it in the Discord and we've talked about it on the show. There's the perceived risk is not there when you look at those top guys. So like looking at a lot of these, let's just start, because I know Dan's going to want to jump into the Justin Fields and Russell Wilson discussion. How do you see the situation? Like from a, you see the conversations happening in the Discord, so geared directly towards that discussion. How do you see the situation?
Dude, Fields is so weird to me because like I think we all can admit, well, hopefully most of us can admit that he isn't a good NFL quarterback right now. But he provides so much fantasy upside that everyone's still willing to buy into, well, hey, he could still give you top 10 fantasy weeks if he starts. And we have Russ Wilson there, and Russell Wilson was not good last year. So what happens if he fails by week 6? Then all of a sudden the Steelers are like, nope, Fields, it's your time. And they put Fields in. And that's the fun part of the talk right now. But I think the biggest thing for me is the NFL showed us the whole offseason Justin Fields isn't a good quarterback that people want to even trade for or do anything with. I mean, he was traded for what? Pretty much a 6th round pick at this point that can go up to a 4th.
Yeah, I think part of the issue too is that you look at the contract. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like a Sam Howell, a Desmond Ridder, yes. Even a Kenny Pickett, where they have the extra year. So Kenny Pickett, obviously he's not going to start over Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. And Desmond Ridder should not be starting over Kyler Murray. But like the Sam Howell, Geno Smith situation, that's an interesting one. And to an extent, I think it kind of has a very similar feel to the Russ Wilson, Justin Fields situation. Mm-hmm. Obviously you had Geno Wilson there in 2023 and prior, but it's a brand new regime. They're trading significant draft capital. I think, I was playing around with the Jimmy Johnson trade values and the charts, and it was like a fantasy calculator essentially, but for that, and it was like a late 3rd value. Pickett moving for mid 4th value, I think it came out to, which is a tremendous move by the Steelers. Really, yes. It is.
Yes.
And Justin Fields, like you said, it's that 6th round pick with the potential to be a 4th, depending on playing time. And I'm interested to see what that comes down to, what the required threshold is. And somebody had the comment in the chat, like, well, the Steelers are at an advantage even trading the 6th round pick, because now if he doesn't play that much in 2024, you get to see him every day at practice. You get to see how he handles himself. And is this somebody maybe you want to do a 2-year, $20 million total mm-hmm. deal with, and you can still build and kind of utilize the flexibility with that contract. Whereas other teams don't get to see him every day, and there very well might not be a market. And the Steelers, again, put themselves in a good situation.
I completely agree. Like, everyone probably thinks I'm a huge Justin Fields hater in the Discord. And it was just, I hated his value when people kept saying he's worth a future 1st round pick. I'm like, he's not that quarterback. But now I think the Steelers made a brilliant move. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what could have happened with Jordan Love. So the Packers, going into Jordan Love's 4th season, they gave him that little 2-year deal, which gave the Packers a little bit of flexibility. He didn't have to worry about going on the 5th-year option. I mean, Fields isn't going to get the exact same thing, but I think it's really close to that, to where they don't need to worry about giving him the 5th-year option. They'll probably just, if he's okay, they'll end up signing him to the 2-year deal like you brought up. And his value now is fine. He's 206, 208, wherever you want to get him. If you have him and you like him, I'm saying just go trade for Russ. If you have Justin Fields, go get Russ. And either way, you're going to have a starting quarterback throughout this whole year. I think Russ is actually going to be pretty good. So I think they're both, startable options. But for me, just go get both of them if you like one or the other. If you really like Russ, trading a mid-second isn't going to kill your team, and you could have a good starting quarterback for this full season, and there's a chance it could happen for future seasons as well.
And you give yourself a small chance as well to double dip there and maybe have two starting quarterbacks.
Exactly. Yes.
Depending on how things play out. The upside is absolutely there.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely there. I have both Russ and Fields in that 206 to 211 tier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know there were some questions in the chat, like 208 or Fields. If you want to take the shot on Fields there, fine. Like, I see Lurs in the chat. We were talking about Quentin Johnston. Like, if I am going to pick between the range of outcomes between like a Quentin Johnston and a Justin Fields, I'm going to go Justin Fields just because of how we see the quarterback market playing out in most superflex or two quarterback leagues. And, talking about getting both of the guys in the quarterback room, I went out last night and I scoured leagues and I was looking for somebody that has Justin Fields in leagues that I have Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
There was very little, and when I say very little, there was no interest in them acquiring Russell Wilson.
Right.
I went out. If I didn't have Russell Wilson, I tried to make a move to acquire Justin Fields I shot a few Devin Singletaries.
No,
I shot a 212. I'm not selling low on Fields. That's what the comments were. And I respect that. The one the one offer I said, I gotta tell you this one. Where is it? Let's see. In one league, Clough, who's a patron, I offered him, he has Fields. I offered him 201 and for my Russell Wilson.
Okay.
What wasn't interested, quick rejection. Okay. Where was So in one league I offered 112 for Fields a week ago. It was rejected.
It's just crazy, man.
Yesterday I offered Devin Singletary for Fields. Appreciate the offer. Zero interest in selling low on Fields. And I get it. That's where the upside comes into play. You're looking at a running back like Devin Singletary, and then you're looking at a potential in Justin Fields. I want to find the one. Where was it? It's just so funny looking at these trade offers. I have a Jerry Jeudy for Justin Fields out still.
Yeah.
See how that one goes. I'm guessing that gets rejected fairly quickly.
I think people are going to have a really hard time if they've had Fields and they haven't moved him to this point. We've seen this with other players before too, where they will not want to trade trade Justin Fields at this point because it's the sunk cost fallacy. It's
100%.
He was worth the first before. He's worth a second. Now I'm not going to trade him. It's, there's a lot of stubbornness when it comes into Dynasty. I'm stubborn about the players I like. You are the same way about certain players. And it's what happens when someone has who they believe is a good asset. They all of a sudden drop and they're like, well, now I'm not going to trade him. But let's just say, for instance, I don't have Russ on my team and I can't get him, or I can't get Justin Fields and I can't get him, right? So I can't combine both of them. I really don't want either of them on my teams.
Doesn't it kind of feel like the Brock Purdy, Trey Lance situation?
A little bit. Yeah, I could see
like
that.
Either get both of them, or if you don't have the conviction,
just stay away. Yeah.
Stay away. And, the Brock Purdy swing in value, that certainly, you're looking back on that and you're like, oh, maybe I wish I would have done it. But Justin Fields, it's certainly a different situation. But it's the same. Let's try to get both, or let's try to get none of them.
And at the time, I was the Trey Lance guy. So I was, I like just what people are saying about Justin Fields. I still had a lot of Trey Lance going into last offseason because I couldn't get off my pre-draft conception about him. And I should have got off earlier, but I didn't. But time and time again, we see these kind of players and these kind of things happen in the NFL. And the same thing almost always happens. These guys don't come back and become 5-year starters afterwards. Like they just don't. The Geno Smith is kind of like the outlier that everyone points to. Well, Geno Smith did it. Geno Smith was actually a pretty decent quarterback to start with, and then like he got his jaw broke in training camp or something.
But even Geno, he's on shaky grounds from a market perspective. There are people really excited about Sam Howell, and I understand that. I found the trade.
Yeah.
So 2 months ago.
Oh Lord. How do you remember these? I have no idea.
Well, no, because when I offered it, and they have it in the history on Sleeper, 12-team super flex. It's actually if you had poor body language, that league. Are you in that one?
I am in that one. Yep.
I offered David Montgomery, Keenan Allen, Alvin Kamara, Amari Cooper for Justin Fields.
Oh my Lord.
Now this is 2 months ago.
We knew this 2 months ago.
Rejected.
Oh.
Now I have an offer to that same manager, my 212.
Here you go. What about now?
It's still in the window when you look on the chat history of what I previously sent.
That's awesome.
So I'm looking at, I saw some recent trades, even on Dynasty Daddy. It typically takes it will say 1 day ago, but I found it needs a few days still to catch up. I was seeing Russ for 201, 202, 203. And I see Bill's comment. I wonder if Russ is more the play. I think it is. Here's my thing. Because of my exposure, I'm trying to cut down on some of the guys. Like I have a lot of Keenan Allen. I have a lot of Joe Mixon. I have a lot of Russell Wilson. And now with these new situations, and even if it isn't exactly an upgraded situation, we know that people like the new. They like the different. A player gets traded, all of a sudden there are so many trades in dynasty leagues centered around that guy just because it's new. And with Russell Wilson, I'm trying to go out and see if there's any market to sell him. And I'm targeting teams that maybe don't have the draft capital to get a quarterback in the rookie drafts. They have an older build, so it's not like if you go after a team that's tanking, they could easily say, I don't want Russ. Like that doesn't fit with my team. And I get that. But if you have a team that maybe it has a Daniel Jones as their quarterback too, maybe they have a Gardner Minshew, maybe they have a Justin Fields. That's where I would think there would be interest in Russell Wilson. I haven't seen that. I have a lot of Russ. I'm just trying to diversify a little bit and cash out because I was buying because nobody had any interest. And I haven't quite seen the shift in his value yet. But I think it's because even though all of these reports are coming out saying Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback, Justin Fields is going to be the backup. He can compete. You've talked about this. We've talked about it in the chat already. If Russell Wilson goes out there and shits the bed, just pull the plug. There's no risk with this Steelers situation right now.
Yeah. So are you selling Russ for an early second? Is that what you're trying to get for him?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, asterisk, if he's my quarterback 3 or worse, if he's my quarterback 2, I'm probably in trouble. So I still might be willing to move off of him at that early second value. But then you also have to know, and I always ask this whenever quarterback questions come up in the chat, where you're not receiving a quarterback and you're moving one off of your team, or tight ends as well in tight end premium leagues because the values are all over the place. What is the league dynamic like? What's the market like? Yeah. If quarterbacks don't move in your league at all, it's going to be hard to want to move a Russell Wilson because most likely people don't value the position in trades necessarily, and they just want to hang on to what they have. And it's going to be very difficult for you to backfill the position. But a lot of my teams, and I'll go through it later and kind of track it. A lot of my teams, Russ is my quarterback 3 or 4. Like it's a lot of Russ, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins builds, I
have a lot of those.
Yeah. Or a Russ, a Geno Smith, and Josh Allen, something like that. So one anchor quarterback, and then we have a couple of the middling guys. And I'm going to be very interested to see how this shifts over the next few days with this specific situation in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Yeah, the hard thing is if you are moving Russ, you're going to be moving him in August more than likely. It's really hard to get someone to buy into him before the rookie draft happens. Then even after the rookie draft happens, because there's just the lull in Dynasty that happens in June through midway through July before it really starts taking off again. And I really think Russ is going to be the starter for 17 games. He's healthy. He always, is healthy. He's out there each week. And I really think as much crap as we give Arthur Smith, I think he's a very good offensive coordinator as long as he's not having to manage the whole team. And the kind of offense he's putting in, it's one that Russell Wilson's going to have a really hard time failing in. And I would say this, if Justin Fields walked in as a starter or whoever is walking in as the starter, it's really hard for them to fail unless they're Desmond Ridder or Marcus Mariota, right? Like you got to be so bad at football as a quarterback to fail in his offense, and these two guys are. So hopefully Russ can just go out there, but at that same point, yes, he's going to be a starter. Do I think he's top 15 weekly? Maybe 2 or 3 times out of the season. I mean, he is just going to be that quarterback 3 who puts up 15 points a week, and that's kind of what he is at this point. Superflex leagues, that's kind of what you need in that superflex spot, but it's the hardest. That's why I have a hard time even saying, hey, go out and get him, even if his price is a little bit lower, because starting wise, I don't know if he's better than a Will Levis as far as weekly points. And Will Levis, I know right now you could say Will Levis is worth more, but Will Levis in the eyes of dynasty managers is like a complete crap quarterback.
But even I would trade Russ for Will.
Yeah, I saw that. I was actually shocked. I was going through it, and I'm like, wow, Johnny even has Will higher.
Well, because you look at Geno Smith and Derek Carr, I think there's a little bit more stability there, even though Geno Smith, that's a precarious situation. But I've talked about this so many times during the offseason already. I think he's going to go back to 2022 form, or maybe that's just the complete outlier and he fails. But there is no upside with Russ.
No,
that's the thing.
None. Yeah,
there's no upside. There might be games in the Steelers offense he's throwing the ball 15 to 20 times a game.
Oh, I think that's what they're hoping for, to be honest. That would be the same with Fields as well.
Maybe even a few less with Fields.
Maybe 10.
But like Bryce Young, there's so much more upside. Stafford, I think there's upside from a weekly production standpoint. Give me Stafford. Even if I knew Stafford was going to retire after 2024, I would still lean Stafford over Russ.
Yeah. Well, you have Aaron Rodgers in the same tier. And I know you can't have 50 different tiers, so it's kind of how it goes. But I would take Rodgers over both Russ and Fields every day in the week, because I think Rodgers can at least give you the upside weekly to provide you something that everyone else can't. But everyone you have below him, I completely agree. You have Daniel Jones below. Agreed. Sam Darnold, Minshew, Howell, Nix. I mean, Minshew's kind of the only one, but he's going to be replaced. We all know he's going to be replaced, right? So I could see someone buying into him, but I also don't think he's giving you any upside that Russell Wilson wouldn't give you weekly. I mean, points per game wise, Minshew and Russ are going to be probably really close to the same.
I actually think if Minshew starts, I have him lower just because I do think the Raiders address the longer term quarterback situation.
Yeah.
So I have him, I think, one tier lower. Lurs says, "Are you guys ready to chat with Dan about Russ for another 15 minutes?"
Listen, know.
This is I love this.
Yeah.
But again, I try my best, even with players that I have an extremely high exposure to. I'm sitting here saying he's at the 206 to 211 value, not, go out there and buy him, get Russ on your roster now. I think this is an opportunity to potentially move him.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see Dan's take on this, because Dan hated Justin Fields so much for so long. Now I'm wondering if he's kind of switching around, one way or the other.
Yeah, I see Hart. Fields is just Baker 2.0 in terms of value now. People will hold. Well, because that's the thing too. Like, if somebody's offering a Fields manager a late second, really minimal hit rate, probably not as high of a ceiling typically. Like, unless you have to find a contending team, I think, that was relying on Justin Fields and potentially look to make a move there where you can unload some veterans, whether it's the quarterback position or cross positionally. But like you said, Mitch, I think it's going to take until closer to the season when we definitively know Justin Fields is not starting week 1.
And then people are going to be like, hey, I want to win money this year. I need a quarterback. I will play Russ. That's when people will buy into him. They're not going to buy into him in, early April and be like, yeah, Russ is going to be my guy to lead me to the promised land this year, right? It's going to be the guys that come back in August and they have Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence, right? They're like, okay, I need to get another quarterback. How do I do this?
Very quickly, we got 2 minutes here. The Steelers offense in general, I like right now it's the running backs. Okay, I'm okay with both of them.
Yep.
And then you have George Pickens.
Yep.
And Pat Freiermuth. If it stays like that, even with the minimal pass attempts, I think this offense can support those two receiving weapons.
I completely agree. I mean, you're higher than I am on Jaylen Warren. That's kind of how I've always been on Jaylen Warren, though. But I agree.
I still have him in red.
Yeah, and I think the whole offense is good. I'm still buying Najee. I love Najee going into this year. I think there are going to be a lot of close games. He's going to get a lot of work, and Russ will pass to running backs. And so and if Fields gets in, I think they move the ball better, more than likely. It won't look as good, but there'll at least be more touchdown opportunities for someone like Najee. So I really like the Steelers as far as like cheap fantasy buys. Don't go overboard because they could put up 14 points a game, but I do like buying into some of them.
All right. Well, we're jumping over to the weekly episode to talk about Russell Wilson. Lurs, 15 minutes might be generous.
Yes.
We might be going the Russ hour. And
I sure hope not.
No, we have a lot of, I have a lot of notes on the show notes you provided.
Oh, you did?
Oh, no. My personal notes.
Oh, okay.
It's like a freaking novel over here. All right. Lord. Thank you guys for jumping in the live chat this morning. I'll be posting this on the Patreon as well. And then we'll catch you guys in the weekly episode chat. Thanks, everyone.